tourism and recreation. So as some of my colleagues on the call know, the Oversight Committee is an extremely important committee in the House and the Senate. We dig into a variety of issues, particularly the way state government runs, what folks are doing out there, so that we can understand and have some oversight over the way state government is running fundamentally. And so Speaker Shekarchi, in his wisdom this year, decided that the Oversight Committee would really dig in further into other issues, really dig deeper into some issues. And he's created 5 subcommittees of oversight. And this is one of them. So it is the House Subcommittee on Oversight, Tourism, and Recreation. I'm fortunate enough to chair that subcommittee. I chaired a House Study Commission on tourism for about 3 years in the House, 4 and 5 years ago, and have a strong connection to the tourism community, particularly based on where I represent, this great city of Newport. And I think that this subcommittee has a lot of big issues on its plate. I mean, taken alone, arts, recreation, and tourism are tremendous revenue generators for the state of Rhode Island. And it's really, arts and recreation are what make Rhode Island a wonderful place to live. And tourism are the things that we're really proud of that we can share with guests from around the country as well as around the world. So this is a really important subcommittee. I want to introduce my colleagues on the committee. There's 5 of us. There's myself, there's Chair Solomon from Warwick, there's Representative Cortvriend from Middletown, there's Representative Newberry and Representative Hawkins are on the call as well. It's the 5 of us on this subcommittee. This is our first meeting, and the strategy that I've taken to get this subcommittee off the ground is to sort of dig into each of the parts of the work of this subcommittee. So we're going to spend some time today learning about arts. We're going to spend some time next week learning about tourism. And then in the month of April, we're going to spend some time learning about recreation. And we're going to see what kinds of issues percolate out of those 3 significant topics as well as very interdependent topics. So we will be asking all of our stakeholders to answer this generally the same set of questions so we can establish a baseline of information here in the committee about these topics. And then we'll see where it takes us in the spring and perhaps into the summer and fall. So I chose the arts first, largely because of my terrific relationship with Dominique Alfondre, my constituent. She and I have had a growing relationship over arts in the community as well as arts in Rhode Island. And I thought that it would be fun to start with an arts discussion. I think that the tourism discussion will be very complex and has a lot of impact on revenue and tax dollars. And then recreation is going to be about playing and swimming and sailing and running and biking. So that'll be a different kind of a conversation. So I'd like to have the roll call taken, please, if we may do that.
Okay. Chairwoman Carson?
Are you on music?
Hello?
Hello?
Can we get the roll call taken?
Hello?
Yes, just one moment, Chair. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Representative Joseph Solomon.
Hello?
Present. Chair Lauren Carson.
Present.
Hello?
Representative Bernard Hawkins.
Present.
Brian Newberry.
I'm here, and I have to leave my video off. I apologize for that for this meeting, Lance.
That's
Okay,
fine.
Representative Cortvriend.
I didn't know they were doing it.
Present.
Okay, thank you. That is a quorum.
Thank
Madam
you
Chair.
very much. Thank you very much. So we have, we originally planned for 5 guests today, but one of our speakers had an emergency and could not make it. So our speakers today will be Randy Rosenbaum from the Council on the Arts, Kate Blacklock from the Rhode Island Council on the Arts, Dominique Alfondre from the Council on the Arts, and Lauren Spears from the Tamaki Museum. I think I said that correctly. I'm not sure about that. And Steve Feinberg, who I really wanted us to hear from the Film Commission, the Film Office, had an emergency and could not make it. So I think Randy may pick up some of his information. So, as I said, the purpose of this meeting is to establish a baseline of information on the arts, really bring all the members of the subcommittee to sort of some common knowledge about the arts community, the arts business, the arts world, what they're doing, what their needs are, what their plans are, what their risks are, what their successes are. And I'm going to turn that over to the very qualified Randy Rosenbaum to kick this off. So Randy, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Carson, and thank you, members of the subcommittee. I'm going to turn my video off so you don't see that one of the things that I lost over the past year was the ability to tie a tie. And I'm going to share with you a presentation that we created on behalf of the Arts Council. And hopefully you are able to see that. Can you see that on your screen?
Yep, I can.
Great. So I'm Randy Rosenbaum, the Executive Director of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, also known as RISCA. And I'm happy to join my colleagues here to share with you the work of RISCA and its impact on the Rhode Island arts community. First, as Chairman Carson mentioned, the arts do have a significant economic impact on our state. It's not just something that contributes to the cultural life of Rhode Island. The State Arts Council, with your support, annually invests in hundreds of projects involving nonprofit organizations, arts education projects in and out of school settings, individual artists, and arts and healthcare programs. We have a significant impact on the economy of our state, the education of all Rhode Islanders, and the quality of life we enjoy here in the Ocean State. The return on our state's investment in the arts is significant. The U.S. Department of Commerce reports that the arts contribute over $2 billion annually to the Rhode Island economy and employ close to 18,000 individuals in our state. The arts comprise approximately 3.5% of the Rhode Island economy and about 3.5% of employment in Rhode Island. Over $1 billion was paid in compensation to those employed in the arts and culture sector of our state. And let's remember that every working artist in our state contributes to our community and to our economy. They pay taxes, pay for housing, buy groceries, send their kids to school, and contribute to the lives and livelihoods of every city and town in Rhode Island. When you add in the economic activity generated by the Rhode Island Film and Television Office, these become even more significant numbers. But as Julie Andrews says in The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning with a list of questions you wanted us to respond to. First, we are the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, and our offices are located at 1 Capitol Hill in the state's main administration building across Smith Street from the State House. As this past year has demonstrated, a physical office space is just one manifestation of where we live and how we operate. As we'll show you, a lot of significant work moved online, and we've learned a lot from these new ways of engaging with people throughout our state. In 1 Capitol Hill, we have office and meeting space, and we also manage gallery in the first floor atrium of the building. This gallery space provides us with an opportunity to enliven and make less forbidding to the public an office building best known as the place people pay their taxes. As importantly, it allows us to showcase the best Rhode Island has to offer from a wide assortment of cultures and cultural groups from throughout our state. Sharing this work is a critical part of our mission. In this slide, the young dancers in the green dresses are from the Colombian American Cultural Society in Central Falls. The young dancers with the umbrellas are from the Hmong Rhode Island Association in Providence. And the Native American dancer is Charente from the Narragansett tribe. In addition to being an amazing performer, Charente was also a member of RISCA's Teen Arts Assembly, a group that advises the council on programs related to young people. All of these performances took place as part of an exhibition of artwork on display at a state building from each of these cultural communities. I'd now like to introduce Kate Blacklock, a member of our council. And this is the next question.
Good afternoon, Chair Carson and members of the subcommittee. I'm Kate Blacklock, and I serve as Vice Chair of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. I'm a studio artist and have been exhibiting my art in public and private venues across the country for over 40 years. I've been on the part-time faculty at the Rhode Island School of Design for over 20 years, and I also currently serve on the City of Providence's Art in City Life Commission. Today, I'm happy to talk about the board and staff of the state's Arts Council. RISCA is governed by a 13-member council appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Rhode Island Senate. The council is made up of individuals with connections to the Rhode Island arts and culture. For example, the two other council members presenting today are Dominique Alfondre, a leader in the Newport arts community, and Loren Spears, director of the amazing Tamaquag Museum in Exeter. Other members of the council include artists and designers, education and community leaders. By the way, the plaque of appreciation pictured here is located in the Boys and Girls Club of Warwick, where RISCA supported the development of a series of rooms devoted to the arts as part of the Cultural Bond Initiative of 2014. The council oversees a professional staff of 7 full-time employees led by Executive Director Randy Rosenbaum. The staff includes 4 program directors responsible for the different areas of the arts ecosystem. At RISCA, that's organized by support for individual artists, arts education, nonprofit organizations, and community arts and folk and traditional arts. The council also includes the Rhode Island Film and Television Office, led by its director, Stephen Feinberg. The film office comprises 2.6 full-time employees and is responsible for bringing film and television productions to our state, in addition to supporting the growth and development of the film community here in Rhode Island, from those in front of the camera to those crew and production members working behind the cameras and in other aspects of production. The Arts Council is led by Randy Rosenbaum, its executive director. In January of 2022, Randy will have been director of the agency for 27 years. Prior to coming to Rhode Island, Randy was deputy director of the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts for 10 years, and before that he managed orchestras in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Ohio. In 2016, Randy received the Gary Young Award from the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, awarded every 2 years to state arts agency directors who, quote, makes extraordinary contribution to public support for the arts at the state, regional, and national level, end quote. The Rhode Island Film and Television Office is led by Steve Feinberg. Stephen has been director of the Rhode Island Film and Television Office for 17 years. Feinberg previously spent 22 years in Hollywood, where he worked with every major studio you can think of, developing a Saturn-nominated Best Science Fiction movie, Fortress, in the process. Since returning to the Ocean State in 2004, Feinberg has been instrumental in the meteoric rise of the Rhode Island film industry, attracting more than $500 million of movie and television productions to our state. Feinberg is also the co-host of the Rhode Island PBS weekly series Double Feature, a show that explores the art of cinema.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? I don't think so. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Jumped ahead and asked that question for you, Randy.
I think, Randy, you might be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we didn't hear
Okay.
you just now.
My apologies. I understand that you can see the notes. which
Yep.
ruins the mystery of it all. But I'll figure that out while I play you a quick video on behalf of the Film and TV office. You see if I can make that happen. Hold on just a second. There we are. Bear with me for just a second, folks. Here we go. Let me stop sharing, and then let me share one more time. Share. Here we go.
Do you know we have no sound?
Can you see this now?
Yeah, we can see it, but there's no sound. Is that correct?
Oh,
I mean, it looks
okay,
lovely.
hold on. Hold on. The sound is the best part.
That looks like Amistad, if I'm not mistaken, right there.
That is indeed.
My son was in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was one of those walk-on kids. Yep.
Hold on. I don't know why you can't hear sound. Let me try and share it one more time.
Okay.
And then if not, we'll just play it without the sound, which would be a shame. There. Any sound?
Nope. But it looks fabulous. Considering you're showing my district almost completely.
Exactly.
Just for the purposes while people are watching this, there's a TV show being made in Newport right now. I don't know if you're going to make reference to that, Randy, but there is the sequel to Downton Abbey is being made in Newport right now. And there's all kinds of television and TV crew around town, and it's kind of exciting. That was Jamestown where that was made, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Chairman, I will send a link to each of the members so that they can play this on their own.
Sure. What movie was that there? Do you know?
I think that was Hachi, the Japanese story of the dog waiting by the train station for his master every day.
Yes. That's Newport. That was right at Salve, that scene right there at Salve Regina University. And he comes to Newport a lot because he's made a lot of films in Newport.
Yeah.
What he was saying there is, here I am in a cardigan and sweater in Newport, Rhode Island, living the good life.
That's right. He comes to Newport a lot.
Okay, so let me stop sharing that and go back to the presentation. There we go. And let me see. Sharing slideshow. Can you see the slideshow?
No, we're looking at the PowerPoint itself.
The PowerPoint is what I meant.
Yeah, but we see, just for your information, we see it inside of the application.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
full-
trying to get to, there we go, slideshow from current slide. And can you see the notes themselves?
We do
Yes,
see
I
the
think you're in presenter view.
Okay. Let me try and get to. I Do not see slideshow. Okay, you're not seeing the full screen
Now we see the full screen with the notes.
with the notes. Okay, well, we'll make do with that, if that's okay with everyone.
That's fine, really.
Okay, great.
This is our first meeting too, so that's fine.
I'm glad we can be part of the grand experiment.
Right.
So again, unfortunately, Stephen Feinberg wasn't able to join us today, so I'm going to walk through his presentation here. The Film Office's first charge is to attract film and TV projects to Rhode Island. It does that through a variety of ways, which include a motion picture tax incentive that has been copied by a number of states. It's also made possible by the personal connection that its director, Stephen Feinberg, has with the Hollywood film and TV community. A second important charge is to expand the production infrastructure in Rhode Island. These are the skilled craftspeople who get the good-paying jobs when productions come to our state. The Film Office maintains directories of people and images of locations on its website, which you can see pictured here, all designed to make it easy and attractive for productions to come here. Finally, the Film Office serves and supports a homegrown community of film and video artists and assists them in a variety of ways to grow their Rhode Island-based businesses. The Film Office is in constant contact with all union and non-union productions, along with Hollywood executives and various guild representatives. And they provide daily guidance and film permits, not only to large productions, but also to smaller productions, including a variety of student productions that are happening throughout our state. 165 feature films, television episodes and series, documentaries, commercials, web series, and theatrical productions have used the motion picture and theatrical tax incentive program, representing over $560 million of production in our state. To date, the Film Office has also issued 637 film permits to much smaller projects, representing over $18 million in production in Rhode Island. As Chairman Carson mentioned, filming right now in Newport is the highly anticipated television show by Downton Abbey writer and producer Julian Fellows called The Gilded Age. And they're filming now in Newport, and they're splitting their production between Newport and New York City.
Excuse me, Randy. Sorry.
Yes, please.
I think the screen is kind of messed up. I think you might need to move your cursor off because it's
Okay.
we're seeing
I don't even
blocks.
see my cursor.
We're seeing
Actually, Randy, is there an opportunity for you to share your entire the Because I think what's happening is the gray boxes are
Okay. Let's
interfering with your slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much better.
Hold on. Okay. So are you seeing that now?
We are still seeing the application as well, but we can see it without,
There. That's. Oops.
which is helpful. If there's an option to share your entire screen, that would be.
That's what I thought I was doing. Hold on. So much for rehearsals, CJ. Gosh. Show media controls, use presenter view. Huh.
Well, the gray boxes are going, so that's helpful.
It's
Okay.
really fine. It's really fine, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Tell me if that's better.
It's real good.
Better.
Okay.
It is. That's perfect now.
Okay. Great. I've got
Perfect.
Carson in the middle of my screen, so let me just, forgive me, I'm going to hide you, Rep. Carson.
That's okay.
So the Film and TV Office it not only works here in Rhode Island, but it also collaborates with film commissioners from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Jersey on weekly meetings to discuss everything of interest, how these individual states have helped their film communities, so that we can get ideas from them and they can get ideas from us. And we also participate in monthly meetings of the Association of Film Commissioners International. So this is a large group of similar kinds of folks from around the country and around the world who share their own ideas and suggestions. So it's part of a collective learning experience. The Film Office also takes education responsibility. As Stephen mentions, some of the fastest growing majors in Rhode Island colleges are in film studies. So we interact with film and media students at all local institutions of higher learning, and Stephen serves as a visiting lecturer and provides internships on productions filming in our state. We've also created an annual filmmaking program for middle and high school students consisting of hands-on labs and an award ceremony, and that program is called Give Me Five. Film Office continues to produce and host the Rhode Island Public Broadcasting weekly series Double Feature, which talks to filmmakers and production people and also shows film by local filmmakers. And it continues to support and participate in local film festivals, including the Oscar qualifying Rhode Island International Film Festival. Of course, there is Stephen with Viola Davis. And finally, Best Places to Live and Work as a Moviemaker in 2021, Providence, Rhode Island, top 6th rating by this national magazine.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. I mean, one of the reasons I understood that Rhode Island is so desirable is that in such a small state, we have so many different venues and so many different steps. Like you can go from the beach to the city in only, a half an hour or 45 minutes. And that makes it easier for filmmakers to transport their staff and their equipment. Isn't that quite somewhat true, Randy?
That is absolutely true. And in fact, not only from cities to the beaches in 15 minutes or so, but Rhode Island has a large variety of architectural buildings that can place you in a colonial setting. It can place you in a modernistic setting. There's a great deal of variety that's available here.
Right. I thought I learned that a few years ago, but it stayed with me. I thought it was really, a positive feature that we have in the state, that in such a small area, you can reasonably move quickly and inexpensively. Because if you're in California, you may need to travel 100 miles to get from the mountains to the beach, but here you can go from colonial Newport to the beach in 15 minutes. So that is an asset that we have for filmmakers.
That is absolutely correct.
Are there any questions? Go ahead, Randy.
No, go ahead. I was going to just finish there.
I was just going to say, are there any other questions about the film industry from any of the members? Or comments?
Yeah, Chairwoman, I have a question. Is my sound okay, by the way? Because I have my laptop shut down, so I don't have
Yes,
to
sir. We can hear you.
All right. Thank you. I know we're not the Finance Committee, and I know this question, I'm not sure if you're best prepared to answer it, and maybe I'm sure this comes up in Finance, but is there any way to draw a correlation between the film and tax credits in the actual productions? And also, can we get some kind of information, if not today, showing the sort of ups and downs in the film industry in Rhode Island as it relates to those tax credits and what other states have done? Because one of my concerns with tax credit issues in general, this applies well beyond the arts, is the sort of race to the bottom that states are in competition with. It's great to bring in these productions. I have no doubt it's good for the state, but if we're spending a lot of money per se to do it, or they wouldn't come in at all without the tax credits. I mean, that's kind of information I'd like to see in some detail.
I can respond somewhat, and then we can certainly respond in greater depth to you and the members of the subcommittee on those questions. I will tell you that it is clear that there is a correlation between a state's ability to offer financial support through incentives and the decisions that these productions make to come here. And while I'm not necessarily sure I would agree with the race to the bottom analogy in this regard, I think some of what Representative Carson has mentioned is quite true in this regard. If there's an incentive to come here, and if the state offers the kinds of things that make it less costly for a production to work here, then those are the deciding factors in whether something comes here or not. So if you can do a variety of settings to go from a place that has this characteristic to a place that is this characteristic, and it's only 15 or 20 minutes apart from one another, that's going to motivate somebody to come here. The experiences that other productions have had coming here play a great role because Hollywood is a small village and the villagers talk to one another. So that helps us in that regard as well. And I think there is information that we can provide to you that shows, the benefits of the tax incentive and what it meant to the overall impact on our economy. I think that the last point, and you've probably heard this, Representative Newberry, from a number of different people regarding tax credits in general, is that this is money that would not be spent here were that incentive not to be available. So it's money that we would basically lose, and an incentive is only a percentage of what the overall spending represents. So I think it's a force multiplier, if you will, for our economy. Is that a satisfactory response?
No, I mean, in terms of today, I don't expect to have anything handy. And I agree with you when it comes to, as someone who's not known for being a fan of tax credits in general, I understand the logic when it comes to these types of productions because they have options to go to. It's not like you're trying to recruit a company that's going to build a factory and, they might be here for 20 years, but if they're, paying out most of what the tax revenue paid tax credits, how much of them are getting, I get it. Actually, I do have a follow-up question. There was a bill, I forget if this was part of a budget recently, not very recently, but in the last couple of years. And I remember it very clearly because it was being pushed, the main lobbyist behind it happens to be one of my constituents. So, of course, he came and talked to me about it. And it had to do with trying to increase the film tax credit, not so much to attract movie productions, which are one-offs, but television productions, which tend to be more long-term. And I don't know to what extent you guys pitch what your feelings are on movies versus television, because I can understand a long-term series that films consistently is going to have a bigger impact, right? I mean, you guys market differently for that? How do you approach that?
That's an interesting question, and I would probably defer to Stephen on that. I will say that there are benefits to both. The a long-term TV series, and we're hoping that The Gilded Age will turn into one of those, has an enormous amount of benefit on an ongoing basis for a number of local crew base individuals, people who work behind the scenes. A major motion picture brings a lot of heavy-duty production to our state, and that also has an impact. The key to this particular program is how many of these productions can we bring into our state to sort of put strings on a strand of pearls on a strand to tie these all sort of together so that there is ongoing consistent work for the people who live here in Rhode Island and make their living from these kinds of productions. Right now, these people are going to Massachusetts or to Georgia or to other places where the work is. And the whole purpose behind this incentive program is to bring the work here so that they can live and work here and make a significant career out of local-based productions. Does that make sense, sir?
No, it does. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's an industry where it's like the construction industry. You work on a project for a year, 2 years, and then when the project's done, all of a sudden you're unemployed until the next project. I get that. So you need to retain the people with the skills to do that. In fact, that leads to a follow-up question I have. I have a constituent who's a documentary filmmaker who's actually finishing up a documentary about our town. And I wanted to ask you about that. Slatersville, yeah, as I figured you're familiar with.
Christian,
I wanted to ask you, we're talking here about productions and marketing the state and all that, but I assume part of the purpose of the State Council on the Arts is to promote art. Even I think Slatersville, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen out clips from it. I think it's probably been pretty fascinating, at least to somebody like history. I don't know. It's going to be, it's not going to be a Hollywood blockbuster most likely, but I think it's the kind of thing that promotes the state as well. To what extent does the Arts Council promote? And maybe this is a question for Mr. Feinberg, but what extent does the council promote filmmaking at that level as opposed to Hollywood productions?
It's very much a part of their charge. And I'll also say that the Arts Council part of this equation has provided support to Christian for the past 3 or 4 years for the production of this particular documentary film. The film office provides technical support and assistance and also promotes the work of Rhode Island filmmakers through a variety of social media and other means. And Stephen has connections to distribution companies and to other professionals who can help in that as well. So the thing that Stephen and his staff does is provide the resources that local filmmakers need in order to advance their work, including the distribution of work.
Okay, I don't have any other questions for now, Chair. Lauren, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. That's great. That's a good, I wrote that down. The tax credit one is maybe, as issues sort of percolate, we'll see where our discussions need to go. And I did jot down the tax credit issue because that has been something that's come up on the floor for us to discuss and debate. So I'll note that for possible future discussion. Any other questions from anyone or comments? Okay, Randy, back to you.
I got a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, sure, Terri. Go.
Yes, Randy, could you talk to us about how you interact with the film festivals? If you do or if you don't, I don't know if you can.
Sure, I can. There are a number of film festivals in our state. There's the most prominent of which is the Rhode Island International Film Festival. There's also the Providence Latin American Film Festival. The Newport Film in Newport has a significant presence in that community. There are a variety of topic-specific film festivals like the Rhode Island Black Film Festival. And the Film and TV office has a significant connection to those groups. Let me just use the Rhode Island International Film Festival as an example. Stephen will work with their organization to develop workshop sessions for filmmakers, interviewing special guests and visitors to the film festival. The office provides financial support to several of these film festivals. And as I mentioned to Representative Newberry, we'll also promote the activities that are generating out of that. And these are significant events because using the Rhode Island International Film Festival again as an example, they're a qualifying entity for the Oscars. A film that premiered at the Rhode Island International Film Festival called The Silent Child went on to win the Oscar for short films 2 or 3 years ago. So the film office takes their work with local film festivals very seriously. Is that a good response, Rep?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move on? Oh, thank you. Back to you, Randy.
Okay, we'd like to move forward with our next series of questions from the subcommittee. And leading us through this is Councilmember Dominique Alfondre.
Good afternoon, Chairman Carson and members of the subcommittee. I'm going to turn off my video so I can let you focus on the screen. I'm Dominique Alfondre from Newport. I'm a member of the State Council on the Arts Board, and I'm active in the Newport arts community where I serve on a number of boards and was the founding executive director of Island Moving Company, which I retired from a couple of years ago. It's my pleasure to talk to you about the mission of the State Council. As we'll mention in more detail as we go down your list of questions, RISCA in May of last year adopted the newest iteration of its strategic plan. This was done with an amazing amount of community engagement and feedback led by Randy and our incredible staff. One of the foundations of the plan was a revisiting of the vision and mission of the agency. We begin with a simple but direct statement of our vision. This reflects where we hope our efforts and the work of others will lead us in the not too distant future. We envision a Rhode Island where arts and culture are valued as an essential part of life and for their contributions to a thriving state. And by the way, Representative Hawkins, that's a poster from a RISCA-supported project with Rise on Broadway, a theater company for youth based in House District 53. Mission statement hews to the original legislative intent from our 1967 enabling legislation, which directed the Arts Council, quote, to ensure that the role of the arts in the life of Rhode Island communities will continue to grow and play an ever more significant part in the welfare and educational experience of our citizens. Representative Cortvriend, that's the Deploy Gallery in his House District 72 in Middletown, a RISCA grant recipient. Most recently, for the coronavirus relief funds we were able to provide to arts and cultural organizations that were hard hit by the pandemic. A value statement is the latest addition to our strategic planning process. We live in a time when the decisions that are made by government agencies need to be based on more than just eligibility requirements. A value statement helps us convey how we work, how we develop programs and make decisions, and how we ensure that all Rhode Islanders have access to the programs and resources that they themselves provide to us through their elected representatives. So, we believe that the arts are transformative and that all Rhode Islanders benefit from a culturally vibrant state. Furthermore, RISCA, as an agency of state government charged with supporting the arts, commits itself to working in an open, consistent, and dedicated fashion. Through its grants and programs, RISCA will promote equity and access, encourage collaboration, ensure artists are paid fairly for their work, share responsibility for the support of culturally relevant work, protect artistic expression, and promote diverse and inclusive leadership.
Any questions on, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Any
that's
questions
okay.
on the mission? Any questions on the mission before we proceed to their budget? I think it's all yours, Dominique. Are you still on this?
No,
No.
it's me now.
Okay.
Okay. This was supposed to be Stephen, but it's now me. It's my pleasure to be here to represent, to move forward on this particular issue of budget and year founded. RISCA was established by the General Assembly, excuse me, in 1967. So this year is our 54th anniversary. In 2017, we had a well-attended ceremony in the State House Rotunda to celebrate a half century of public support for the arts in Rhode Island. RISCA's funds come from two major sources: funds appropriated by the General Assembly and funds received from the National Endowment for the Arts, our federal funding partner. Throughout most of our recent history, the 70 to 30% ratio has been in place. RISCA also receives occasional funding from a variety of other sources. For several years, we received $10,000 annually from Bank of America for our Big Yellow School Bus program, which provides grants to schools to transport students to arts and cultural events during the school day. 2 years ago, we received $50,000 from Art Place America to support our Artists in Residence program with the State Department of Health. And we have an ongoing relationship with the Rhode Island Foundation, which supports a variety of activities, most related to our collaboration to support culturally specific organizations through a program called the Rhode Island Expansion Arts Program. Another source of funds you should be aware of is through the state's public art program. Rhode Island General Law 42-75.2 establishes that 1% of all construction costs for new or renovated state facilities shall be set aside for the acquisition of art. The process is established in the law that governs the acquisition of art, and the State Arts Council is responsible for managing these projects. Funds come to RISCA from each of the agencies we work with and go into a restricted receipt account used to pay for costs related to each project. Each year, approximately $400,000 to $600,000 is established as a placeholder, and that figure either rises or falls depending on the number and scope of projects we're engaged in. At the moment, the following are projects we are currently working on: University of Rhode Island College of Engineering, the Attorney General's new office, the Pawtucket Central Falls train station, the Barry on Simpson buildings at the Howard Complex, the Rhode Island National Guard Joint Force Headquarters, the Garrahy Judicial Complex parking garage, and two major projects at Rhode Island College, including the development of a master public art plan for the college, but also programs for Gage Lee and Horace Mann and Fogarty buildings. By the way, the image on the left is a work by Jamestown artist Peter Diepenbrock that's located outside Lippert Hall on the URI campus. And on the right, we have a work by a Vermont artist commissioned for the Rhode Island Fire Academy in Exeter. Finally, here's where the funds go. About 60% of funds go to support grants and programs, from operating support to the Newport Art Museum, to project grants to the Warwick Center for the Arts, Big Yellow School Bus grants to Burrillville High School so students can attend theater arts classes at the University of Rhode Island, and a grant awarded to Harmony Hill School for a large ceramic mural. 13% of funds go to support the work of the Rhode Island Film Office, and the remainder support the operations of the Arts Council.
Any questions from anybody? Thank you. That was very useful information, Randy.
Thanks. And now on to the questions you ask, Agar, which laws govern your work? As to our regulatory authority, there are four major ones: our enabling legislation, the legislation for the Film and TV Office, the state's public art law, and the motion picture tax incentive law. Those are the laws and the citations for that. Oh, and I threw in a picture of the holiday concerts at the State House. It seemed like a nice place to remind us of that, and something that we can hopefully return to soon. We've pretty much covered where the funding comes from. We're now happy to call upon Councilmember Loren Spears to continue with the subcommittee questions.
Good afternoon, Chairman Carson and members of the subcommittee. I'm Loren Spears. I'm a member of the Narragansett Tribal Nation, and I'm the executive director of Tamaqua Museum in Exeter, Rhode Island. It's a museum devoted to the indigenous arts and culture of the Narragansett and other southern New England tribal people. I'm a board member of the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, a national organization representing state arts councils in all 56 states and territories. I'm also a proud member of the Rhode Island State Council of the Arts Board, and it's my pleasure to talk to you today about grants. So, as soon as the page changes, the image is up. There we go. We're going to share. If you look at the map there, the red boxes on the map indicate the locations of Rhode Island State Council on the Arts grant awards. As you can see, they're very diverse across the state. These awards made in what I'll refer to as the last normal year, and as you can see, State Arts Council reach is pretty impressive. We've awarded grants in practically every one of Rhode Island's 39 cities and towns, and the Arts Council staff is working hard to prioritize support to those communities, both geographic and racially or ethnically diverse, that have been historically or are currently marginalized or underserved. To look more closely at the statistics, in FY20, RISCA received 636 applications with requests over $4 million. In that year, RISCA awarded 335 grants totaling $1.5 million. Rhode Island State Council on the Arts grants generated over $44.7 million in matching dollars by our grantees, meaning that for every dollar the state awarded to a RISCA-funded program, close to $30 was raised to match that state investment. Finally, it's important to note that close to 2 million adults and over 530,000 children participate in RISCA-funded projects during that year, according to the reports we received from grantees. And as we continue, I'm going to share about the review process. So RISCA grants are peer reviewed. And this process is organized by RISCA staff, where there are panels meeting with artists, arts administrators, arts educators, and other arts professionals, where they review applications and make recommendations for funding to the Arts Council Board. Applications are reviewed based on established criteria that includes artistic merit and public value to ensure that what is supported is of value to the people of Rhode Island and represents the best that arts and culture community can offer. Rubrics are used by panelists to aid in the ranking of applications, and RISCA ensures that the comments that are generated by these reviews are shared with each applicant to assist them as they return to RISCA for funding at future application deadlines. We also take seriously the need to ensure that all applications reviewed are full and fair, without any bias or conflict. RISCA has an orientation program for panelists that includes a racial equity and bias training session and conflict of interest rules that are strictly enforced. We also have a rule that ensures that 40% of our panelists are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, also known as BIPOC.
Chairman, did you want to stop and ask about questions now? I don't actually. The next slide is not that.
Any questions so far on this presentation? I think you're full steam ahead.
I do actually. I have a question, Chairwoman. Just going back to a couple of slides back, I was looking at the map in regard to where the grants have been awarded right there. Can you just explain, I noticed that it appears as if only there's one in Warwick, and then there are a couple areas that don't seem to be served very much. Is that based on not many applications actually being sent out or not being granted? Can you just explain a little bit more?
I think, Rep. Solomon, that's part of the issue. We don't get a lot of applications from Warwick. Those that we do get are supported. And some people, we're dealing with addresses that sometimes they put Providence in instead of Warwick if they're on the line. I can generate a report. Actually, I'm happy to generate a report for each member of the subcommittee on the grants that have been awarded throughout the state by community. And I can dig a little deeper into that for you, sir.
Yeah, Randy, if you could actually dig into how many applications have been sent in and how many have been awarded.
Sure.
I'd like to see the total amount of people that have actually applied as well as compared to the ones that have been awarded. And if in fact there is an issue with people just not applying, what we can do to get the message out there, because I think there's I think it's a missed opportunity for a lot of people that would definitely like to participate in it, but maybe do not know about it or.
And sir, one of the things that we've done in the past, and we haven't done this in a while in Warwick, is if you would be interested in hosting a gathering, we could come and talk to Warwick artists about opportunities through the Arts Council and then generate some more interest that way.
Randy, if you can put that together, I'd absolutely love to do that. And I look forward to it.
Great. Happy to do that.
Thank you.
And that's a standing invitation for anybody in the General Assembly. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm happy to move forward with the questions from the subcommittee. This one, what can be done to improve your performance? So the first issue is technology. Thankfully, we have left behind the days when we would review paper grant submissions. We have been happily using a wonderful online grant application system for the past 10 years. But as we have experienced during this pandemic, the need for reliable, up-to-date technology is key to our success. This presentation early in the process is one indicator that technology is everything. We're making do, but upgrading our equipment to facilitate more online meetings, including grant review panels, will be important. Staffing. We have an amazing staff, but again, as the pandemic has shown, we are stretched to the limit. The needs of artists, arts organizations, arts educators have all grown exponentially. RISCA staff has become expert in the ins and outs of federal assistance programs, opportunities available from Commerce and through programs at the Rhode Island Foundation and the United Way. We have provided small group and one-on-one assistance for things like finding legal assistance or building a marketing campaign. This is exciting work for us, but when it's layered upon the existing and labor-intensive work we do, running grant programs and providing all kinds of other support to the Rhode Island arts community, it becomes a bit unmanageable. We're fortunate to have added a communications and public engagement manager through the support of federal funds. This has changed our game to an extraordinary degree. We now need a full-time grants management director who would be responsible for the hundreds of details that go into running a myriad of grant programs, details that overwhelm the individual program directors and put metaphorical sand in the gears of our smooth running operation. And ideally, each program director would have an assistant to help manage the day-to-day activities in each program area. And yes, we are that busy. Adequate office space. We like being in One Capitol Hill. It's important that the arts are closely associated to the workings of state government. And nowhere is that more apparent than in the state's main administration building. But we are tucked away in a windowless and poorly ventilated nook that is small and inadequate for our needs. Under ideal circumstances, we would be in a space with windows that allows us to hold a number of concurrent meetings, one-on-one, small group, and large group meetings, which are not possible now. It feels ironic saying this, since the pandemic has shown us that other working configurations are possible. But as one member of our staff said, we feed off the energy of others. And the ability to stick your head around a corner and engage with another staff member in problem solving and program development means that there will always be an important need for collective work and meeting space. This will need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And finally, adequate pay. One final but incredibly important issue. As an agency that has committed itself to equity in the work we do, it's particularly disheartening to see the inequity that exists in the area of staff compensation. RISC is an arts council, and we are sadly used to people thinking that we don't deserve the compensation others would receive for equally valuable work. It is, however, disturbing to see the inequity that exists within state government itself regarding pay. The closest comparison within state government is with a fellow cultural agency, the Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission. They have program directors, same as RISCA. But historical preservation's program directors are at a pay grade 28, whereas RISCA's program directors start and usually remain at a pay grade 21. This results in a $10,000 or more disparity between the annual salaries of RISCA staff when compared with historic preservation staff. For the past several years, I've tried to move us closer to that higher level, but to no avail. What is a morale issue will sooner or later become a performance issue. So I felt it was important to raise it in this venue.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment about the technology. Another thing that has occurred under the leadership of Speaker Shikarchi, Randy, is that he's created a technology committee, a standing committee of the House, where I serve. And I think one of our interests and one of my interests on that committee is really starting to have the committee members look at the technology across all the different departments, executive departments. So maybe that technology question will come up there. So just
that's outstanding. That.
Yeah, because I think that as an assembly, we should be at least informed as to the status of the technology of our departments, and that way we don't have any surprise upgrades in our future or massive problems with software that are outdated. And we really have very limited information on that. So I think the technology committee is going to check that stuff out over the next year to 18 months.
And I will say, Chairman Carson, that we have the highest regard for our information technology division in state government. They do extraordinary work. But any upgrades that need to take place with technology-related things have to be paid for out of our individual agency budgets. And sometimes the need to make these changes outstrip the resources that we have available to address them.
Good to know.
It's heartening that this work is happening in the General Assembly.
Yep, we're starting to look at this stuff. Yep.
You then go on to ask about the impact of COVID, and I'm going to turn it back to Dominique Alfondre.
Thank you. Well, certainly COVID has been the most serious issue facing the arts in our lifetimes. I'm happy to briefly address this issue. In July of 2020, a long time ago in the age of COVID, the Brookings Institution did a study on the impact of the pandemic on America's creative economy. According to that study, from April to July of last year, the state's creative industries lost 10,077 jobs. That's nearly 2/3 of the arts workforce. And lost sales added up to more than $436 million. To put this in context, at the time of that study, Rhode Island had 18,000 known cases of COVID-19. Today, Rhode Island has over 123,000 known cases. The order of magnitude has had a devastating effect on artists' lives and livelihoods and has shut the doors on practically every arts activity in our state. Coming from Newport, I wanted to mention the connection between the arts and tourism, another of your subcommittee's concerns. The cancellation this year of all of our festivals and closure of museums has contributed to the devastation in Newport's economy. Even now, the jazz and folk festivals have not decided on live performance this summer, and the Newport Music Festival is planning a greatly diminished schedule. We don't know when live music in our bars and restaurants will resume, and all this has taken a huge toll on the arts community. The State Arts Council stepped up in a number of ways. It organized an artist relief fund so that in a few short weeks, it started to distribute over $500,000, much of it raised from private sources, to help over 800 artists pay their rent and put food on their tables. We started to distribute federal coronavirus relief funds to nonprofit arts organizations, getting the money out the door as quickly as humanly possible to help organizations keep from shutting their doors permanently. And most importantly, we provided an opportunity to share information with and between members of the arts community so that they could learn from the fortune and misfortune of others. This information exchange also gave us the opportunity to bring voices from within state government to the table. So people in the Department of Health and Commerce and Business Regulation would get to know the challenges the arts community was facing, and so they could adapt their programs to support an unfamiliar constituency. We are particularly proud of the resiliency of the Rhode Island arts community. Here's a picture of Isla Moving Company, which, with assistance from the state of Rhode Island and partnership with Rhode Island PBS, was able to produce a film version of its popular holiday performance of Nutcracker in the Newport Mansions. Many other arts organizations were able to move online in order to continue to employ artists, educate students, and keep the work alive. This is not a solution to the problem. The arts live where they can connect to audiences. Video or computer will never be a substitute for that. But we can always rely on creative solutions from Rhode Island's creative community.
So the next question from the committee is the outlook for the next 12 months. And usually it's easy to look 12 months into the future and make predictions about the challenges you and your field might face. But this pandemic has made the prediction business, well, unpredictable. Just give it a try here. The first and most important thing is for RISCA to assist in the recovery effort. We need to assist artists and arts organizations to regain use of the venues that were necessarily shut down by the pandemic. This will be a long process. As we say, the arts were the first to shut down, and they will be the last to reopen. Recovery will require resources to provide aid until income streams can be reestablished. Rebuilding will require the tools to restart programs and arts activities. Those tools can be knowledge-based. For example, the continuation of our peer-to-peer sessions that help artists and arts organizations grapple with the challenges they face in emerging from this crisis. Rebuilding can also help provide the personal protective equipment and materials an arts organization needs to reopen their doors. Finally, reassure will be the big one. We need to find ways to reassure the public that it is safe to attend arts events, visit museums, and participate in the programs they loved prior to the pandemic. A recent national survey on arts participation showed that over 40% of Rhode Islanders regularly attended concerts, visited museums and galleries, and participated in the arts in some way. Our challenge is to reassure the public that they can continue to do so safely and without reservation. And while we are rebuilding and reassuring, we must also be repairing. The arts are no different than anything else in our state or country. There are historically and currently marginalized groups that have not benefited the same as others. Recent events have merely reminded us of this fact. So if we're looking ahead over the next 12 months and beyond to our biggest challenges, then we need to consider all that we can do to reduce and eventually eliminate systemic racism and inequalities in funding programs and the availability of programs and services. RISCA staff and board is in the process of engaging a consultant to help us with this journey. It's going to be important for us, and it's going to be important for those we serve to see us take this path. I don't know if we want to pause here, Chairman?
Yeah, I'd say keep going, Randy, please.
Okay, great. So the biggest risks over the next 12 months, it's the same as everyone else, the risk of failure. Too much, it's basic, too much to do, not enough hours in the day, not enough resources to ensure that everything that needs to be done is done well. To say it less simplistically, we have a long list of priorities that emerge from our strategic planning process. It's hard not to list every one of them as essential, but we have. Even so, there are not enough hours in the day or dollars in the bank to make it all happen. That can be frustrating, but it can also make others feel like we're not doing all we can or should. I'm encouraged by the expressions of support we receive, sometimes daily, from our constituents. They know we are doing our best, but my inherent sense of guilt makes me wonder how much more we could do with the human and financial resources needed to do the job right. You ask about regulatory issues. On that, we've been pretty lucky. The legislation that established the Arts Council and Film Office is broadly written and doesn't place undue burdens on the way we do our work. In the case of the Film Office, those regulations and rules don't unduly burden film production companies. So we're not driving away business by being an unfriendly business environment. And the rules we need to follow as a state agency are reasonable. And although we may like to complain about them from time to time, we realize that they exist to protect the public. So we have to say that regulations, as they currently exist, have little to no adverse impact on our agency's performance. Finally, the section on planning. Beginning in the summer of 2018, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts began a strategic planning process to better understand the needs of Rhode Islanders in general and the arts community specifically in our state. We started to look at the best ways we could meet those needs. Our strategic planning process took place around 3 concurrent and intersecting paths: actively engaging and listening to people from around the state about their needs, thinking and planning collaboratively as a staff and board based on our listening sessions, and surveying the broadest possible public, not just those that we have a connection to ascertain the needs of the people of Rhode Island as it relates to arts and culture. So we established a 12-month-long community engagement initiative, meeting people in every corner of the state pre-COVID, for gatherings in coffee houses during the day, in community libraries and meeting spaces, and even in brew houses after working hours. Those were the hardest ones of all. We gathered a great deal of information from these gatherings, many of which were well attended. We continued our work by thinking and planning collaboratively as a staff and board based on these listening sessions. For example, pictured here is an image from one of our 2 staff retreats, this one at Johnston Public Library, where we worked through vision, mission, and value statements. To the left is an early draft of a portion of our value statement, which you saw earlier. Finally, we put a comprehensive survey into the field to assess the impact of the arts and the needs of everyday Rhode Islanders. We used social media aggressively to push the survey out and received help from many of our supporters. We received over 1,700 responses, and it provided us with a great deal of information that went on to shape the final plan. When all of this material came together into a final draft plan, we shared that work with the community, and through surveys and additional listening sessions, we pulled together a final plan that was adopted by the council in May 2020. Finally, since then, we have been working to prioritize the work we need to do to internalize the plan. We have set up an every 6-month review process that looks at every goal and objective in the plan, decides for the next 6 months what is essential to do, what would be important but not essential, and what would be nice if time permits. For example, here's a slide that looks at one objective, our agency's commitment to continual learning on diversity, equity, access, and inclusion, and identifies as essential the finalizing and posting of a call for qualifications for a consultant to work with board and staff, and an internal review of our programs, services, and the culture of our agency. And that's it. You have.
I have a question, Randy. So I'm glad to see that you did the strategic plan. Were you asked by anyone else in state government to do a state plan? Was it the initiative of your own board? The reason I'm asking is I'm wondering, like if there's any leadership from above that asked the different departments to do strategic planning, or was that just your own initiative?
There's a twofold answer to that question. In the past, I would say 6 to 8 years, the presence of a strategic plan is a required part of the budget making process. So the state budget off OMB requires that there be a strategic plan in place as part of the required submissions for the state budget. In addition, our federal funding agency, the National Endowment for the Arts, requires a strategic plan from every state arts council and bases its distribution of federal funds on the strength of that strategic plan and the inclusiveness of the plan's development. So I would say yes, from both the federal and state entities, this has been a required part of, and a smart thing for every agency to do.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Are there any questions or comments from any of the subcommittee members? I think this was a great presentation, really. It was very, very helpful in understanding what you folks do and gave me a really good snapshot. Anybody want to say anything else? Because I think that if any of the members. So I think that I'll say on the behalf of the subcommittee, thank you all very much for a very thorough presentation and answering the questions that we presented to you. As I said, the purpose in the first few meetings that we're going to be having are going to be this kind of a presentation from arts, from tourism, and from recreation. And then we'll see what kinds of issues percolate up. We do have the capacity as a subcommittee to bring issues to the full Oversight Committee, and we're going to see what they are, and what we're learning. As far as the members are concerned, next is tourism, which I think is going to be a very hefty discussion. And that's like a $4 billion industry. So they'll have a lot to say when we meet with the tourism folks. And it's generally going to be the same type of a discussion, really creating a baseline of knowledge for us on the nature of the industry. So go ahead, Randy.
Thank you for allowing us this opportunity. And
you're welcome.
We're glad to be first out of the gate for you.
Thank you. It was terrific having you.
Informative.
Very informative. So without further ado, I'm going to say good afternoon to everyone and take care of yourself today and have a lovely evening. Thank you for participating, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. See you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.